All right, I know that's not a typical scripture verse for a Father's Day sermon, but hopefully it ties in, and when we get to the end, or if I get to the end, we tie it in, what the verses that we read. I guess Father's Day is one of the best holidays there are. I guess I'm biased because, I am a father, and I like celebrating Father's Day. It's one day out of the year that my kids actually say, "I love you," so there you go. And you get gifts, and we're all going to go out to eat, and it's going to be awesome. And then Dad doesn't know, but he's paying because the oldest always pays. And I just said, let's go out to eat. I didn't say who was buying. And 5 fish and a loaf of bread, and then divide it up among everyone. Make sure you say the prayer first. Father's Day. I have to be careful because we are going to revisit this topic next month in A Nation in Distress. The problem that our nation has about the lack of fathers, the lack of male influence in a family, in a home, and the epidemic that we have about that. The philosophy, the belief that's pushed out there, women, you don't need a man. You don't need a man. And you'll be just fine. You can have children and have a home on your own. Has ruined our nation. God has set it up that children need both a mom and a dad. There are things that a child will only learn and can learn really from their mom. And there's things that only a child can and will learn from a dad. God has set it up that a child needs both. And so we'll talk more about that next month. The title of this sermon is Believing Fathers Bring Their Children to Jesus. And I'm getting a real echo. Do you guys hear that? Okay. I don't think William can hear it. It's never good to have a sound man that can't hear. Yeah, sounds good to me. All right. Thank you. There we go. All right. Believing fathers bring their children to Jesus. I have a lot on my mind, and I want to be careful. There's also the attack on masculinity and what it is to be a man, what a man is, and what we can or cannot say. Somebody came to me and was trying to describe someone to me because someone had told him to do something. And I said, "Who told you that?" And he just was tripping all over himself because he said, you never know these days. After a while, I said, "Oh, you mean the Mexican, right?" And he's like, he goes, "You never know when people would call you a racist or whatever." And I was trying to be careful not to say his gender or his race or any. What have we gotten into? We can't even say whether he's a guy or a girl without being afraid that we're going to offend somebody. I couldn't figure out what in the world he was trying to tell me, who it was. He said, that person with black hair over there. You know how many people that was? And so we have really pushed out the father out of the home. I was watching videos today, and I was trying to see if I could find one to play. Because, James, I love my videos.
So do I.
Yeah. And I got onto one, and the guy said, "How do you spell father?" And he spelled mother. And it was all about how a mom can be both a mom and a dad. No, she cannot. I remember when I was first separated from my wife and going crazy. Got these 3 little kids. And I'm just going nuts, especially with my little girl. I didn't know how to make pigtails. What man does? But she wanted pigtails. Ponytails? What in the world? What? And finally, a lady came to me in my old church, and she knew I was just running myself ragged, and she said, "Michael, you can't be a mom and a dad. You can't do it. Just be a dad." Now that I can do. And so, pigtails, ponytails, I did the best I could. I'm sure she went to, daycare looking weird, but, hey, I can only be a dad. We need both in our homes. Good dads, believing dads in a home will always bring their children to Jesus. Introduce them to Jesus, talk about Jesus, bring them to church so they can hear about Jesus, read books to them about Jesus. Always bring them to Jesus. A believing father does. Today, we are examining 3 believing fathers who brought their children to Jesus and the end results of their actions. We will also look at what type of faith each had and needed in Jesus. The first father we find is in John chapter 4, 43 through 54. And no, I'm not going to read the whole thing. But the father of John 4, the 3 through 54, that needed a sign and wonders. He needed signs and wonders. The story of it is Jesus is walking one day and a man comes to him, a nobleman, and he says to him, "I need my son healed. My son is sick. He's about to die." And Jesus, sometimes, if we're not careful, sounds smart-aleck. Like the one time the Gentile woman asked Jesus to heal her son, and Jesus says, "Am I here to help the dogs?" Calling her a dog. That sounds smart-aleck. This man, he sounds smart-aleck too. He says, "You always seek," then he says in 4:8, "Then said Jesus unto him, Except ye see signs and wonders, you will not believe." Don't forget that Jesus was God, or is God. And he knows our thoughts and our hearts. He may have known, maybe years ago, weeks ago, days ago, when it was that this man had said to someone or in his heart and mind, "I'm not going to believe in this Jesus guy, this one that everybody's talking about. I'm not going to believe in him until I see some signs and wonders, until I see some miracles, till I get some proof that he is who he says he is. I need some proof." And so Jesus already knew his heart and his mind, and that's why he made that statement. You need a sign. You need wonders, huh? That's what you need? But the man says to him, "Please heal my son. He's about to die." And Jesus says to him, "Go. Your son is healed." Didn't even go with him or anything. Your son is healed. And here's the thing. The Bible says he went believing. He went away believing because of Jesus' word, not because of a sign or a wonder. See, a lot of times we'd have to have, as Christians, as fathers, for our children, sometimes all we have is God's word. I remember when, and Jonathan's here, so I remember when he had to have surgery. I think I may have already told this story. If I have, you can turn me off for a little bit. But he was going to have surgery on his head, and I was okay with it, and everything was okay until the day of the surgery. And there's Jonathan and I were playing on the floor with some toys that they had given us. And this guy in a white gown and stuff, green and all, it took him away, this healthy baby. I mean, if you saw him, you wouldn't know there was anything wrong. And they took him away. And as they're taking him away, my child away, then they have you, and they should never do this, they had you sign these papers acknowledging all the things that could go wrong. This could go wrong, that could go wrong, telling you all this. All of a sudden I got scared to death. I was fine till they told me what could go wrong. And one of them was too, this is way back in the day, one of them was getting HIV through the blood. Remember the big fear about all that? The blood transfusions? I was scared to death. I was worried. And I'm pacing the floors all this time, and we're in the waiting room, and this other lady was there, and her son was having surgery or something, and the doctors came and got her, and as she's leaving, I'm standing there, and she hands me a note and keeps on walking. What's this? I unwrap it, the note, and it says, "Don't forget, God loves your child too." And I felt awful. I had forgotten God's word of how he loves all of us, and he cares for all of us. This man said, I want a sign, I want a wonder. Jesus wanted him to believe on him. He wanted him to have faith in him based on his word, his words. And sometimes that's all we have. That's enough. And God says in Proverbs, if you train up a child in the way he should go, he will not depart from it. Cling to those words, even though you may not see it now. You may not see the signs and the wonders that you're looking for, but claim it and use it and train your children in the way they should go. When do you stop training them? Never. Never. Even as adults, you still need your dad to train you. Because, what happens is they get a little older, as you get a little older, and they learn more, don't they? They do. And as you get older, they get older, and they learn a little more. Until the day they come back and say, I got to live with you. And then who knows all about that. But continue. Sometimes we got to have faith, belief in Jesus based on his word. The Bible says, as he's leaving, a servant comes to him and says, your son is healed, your son is fine. And he asked him, when did it happen? And he told him what time. He knew exactly when it was all done. He was healed. He told him the time, and the Bible says that the man knew it was the exact time that Jesus says, go, he's okay. So did he get a sign and a wonder? He got it, didn't he? He still got it. But based on what? Unproven belief. Hasn't been proven to me. I don't know it yet, but I believe in your words, Jesus. And we need fathers to bring their kids to Jesus and trust in God's word and what God's word say, and teach them what God's word says, and raise them up through God's word. Even though it hasn't been proven to us, we don't know. We just have faith and belief in his word. We teach them to be kind to our enemies. We teach them to turn the other cheek. And maybe that is not something that we're good at ourselves, but we teach them that with the belief in God's word. And so he had unproven belief, but then Jesus went ahead and proved himself, didn't he? It's amazing. God will honor, if we're truly in our hearts seeking him, he'll honor us and bless us But Jesus wanted him to believe him at his word. We have a lot of children out there who do not have believing fathers. We have a lot of children out there that have no fathers at all. We're about to have camp again this year. This will be, I think, our 21st year that we have camp for inner city kids. And you would not believe how many of those boys and girls have no father in the home. No father in the home. And they have 2 or 3 brothers and sisters with them. No father. Nevertheless, a believing father. The Bible clearly states that the father is the spiritual leader in the home. He is to teach the children God's word. He's to bring the children to church. He's to be the one who shows the way to live through God's scripture. We learn as children our morality more from our fathers than we do our mothers. It's a fact. We look at fathers to show leadership, strength, ethics, and morals. And we as fathers need to bring them to Jesus. When they say something about lying or they get caught in lying, and as you're correcting them, make sure they know what Jesus taught or said about lying, what the scripture says. Sometimes they just need us to be a good example too. Don't tell your children not to lie and then they watch you lie. It's not going to happen, is it? There used to be a commercial, and I'll go on the next one. There was a commercial one time where this guy is confronting his son about marijuana that he found in his room. And he kept saying, "Where did you learn how to do this? How did you get this? How did you know about this?" And finally the son got frustrated and said, "From you. From you." He got that stash from his dad. Signs and wonder, unproven love. Number 2, the father of Luke 8:41 through 56, who knew she is dead. The story is this. The man comes to Jesus and says to Jesus, my daughter's sick and she's going to die. Of course he wants to go to Jesus. Jesus heals people. Jesus blesses people. He wants to bring his child to Jesus. Cannot, so ask Jesus to come. And Jesus agreed to come. And as they're walking to go to the child who was dying, Jesus got stopped for a little bit. He got delayed. This woman touched him. That's the story where he's walking through the crowd. The Bible says all of a sudden a crowd came on him. That happened a lot with Jesus back in the early days. And a crowd came upon him, and he's walking through the crowd to go with this man to heal his daughter. And all of a sudden Jesus stops and says, "Somebody touched me." Because the woman had said, "If I could just touch the hem of his garment, I'll be healed." Jesus says, "Somebody touched me." And the disciples, again being human, said, "Look at all these people." Yeah, somebody touched you. No, it was a different kind of touch. It was a touch of faith. Somebody reached out to Jesus by faith. By the way, if you do that, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, Jesus will honor that faith. She touched Jesus in faith. It wasn't a normal touch. And he stopped and he healed the woman. And while he's delayed with that woman, they get a little further down, and a servant comes to the man and says this: "While ye yet spoke, there cometh one from the ruler of the synagogue's house, saying to him, Thy daughter is dead. Trouble not the master." She's already gone. Don't trouble Jesus anymore. I want to tell you, fathers, there will be people tell you that your child is a lost cause. They'll tell you that. They're too far gone. They're too wild. They're too deep in the world. They're too deep in sin. They're a lost cause. Isn't that what this man is telling? The servant telling this man? She's already dead. Don't pray anymore. Don't ask anymore. There's nothing he can do. It's a lost cause. It's a lost cause. Unattainable belief. There's no way that anything can happen. That person is gone. Is there such a thing as that with Jesus? No. I don't care how old your child is. I don't care what your child has gotten into. I don't care where they are in their lives. It is an attainable belief. There is no lost cause with Jesus. There is no, they're too far gone in sin. Trust me, I've worked years in an addictions program. I have worked with men that you would not believe. I had one man, his nickname, he was in the gangs. He was older, but he was in the gangs. He'd been to jail 3 times. If you ever know about teardrops, Michael might know, but you get those teardrops. That's how many people you've killed personally. That's what I've heard. He had 3. His nickname was Killer Ed. Matter of fact, the first time he came to my addictions program was to kill one of the men in my addictions program. Had a gun and everything. A lost cause. His mom and his dad knew what he was, who he was, what kind of person he was. If you ask anybody in society, he was worthless. A trouble. Till he came to our addiction program. And he found Jesus. He's a preacher now in Chicago, by the way. There are no lost causes when it comes to Jesus Christ. I don't care what your children have fallen into. Don't let people tell you it's too late. They're too far gone. They're too deep in sin. There's nothing you can do. Well, that's true. There was nothing the man could do. But who was he with? And who did he believe in? Jesus. And he was told it was unattainable. But he believed anyhow. And Jesus went with the man. And when Jesus got there, the story is there's mourners already there. And everybody's already weeping and playing sad songs. And it's all sad. It's a sad situation. Imagine the man's heart. Imagine how the man felt knowing his child was dead. Yeah, we got Jesus here, but the child is dead. She's gone. It's too late. Jesus went in and raised her from the dead. Because there is no lost cause. Don't let anybody tell you that it's an unattainable belief. It's attainable. It's attainable. And the man brought Jesus to his child and resurrected her child, resurrected her life. Just like Jesus can do with any one of your children, no matter where they are, what they've done, who they are, no matter what statement they say. Many a time I have found people that are struggling with salvation always talk bad about God and Jesus. May even cuss and curse God and Jesus. That's usually a sign they're struggling with it. Remember when Jesus appeared to Paul and said, "Why are you kicking against the pricks? Why are you struggling with this? Why are you fighting it? Accept me." No matter where they've gone. Then there's the father of Mark 9:17 through 27, who asked, "Help my unbelief." This story is a particularly sad story. This boy, for a long time, had been demon-possessed. And the demon would take him and throw him on the ground, and he would foam with the mouth and roll around. Matter of fact, it loved to take him and throw him in fire. Any place there was fire, the demon would throw him in. What a sad, hard, difficult life it would be for this father to have this child that's out of control. Ever been told that? Your child is out of control. I remember one time I got a call and they said, we need to talk to you about Justin. Oh no, at school. And we need you to come right now. Oh boy, what did Justin do? And so I went and I had to leave work, which is point against me. You get so many points, a point against me. And I'm sitting there and the teacher comes in, the principal comes in, and I'm really scared because what has Justin done? And they said, well, they were in line. I don't know if you remember this, Justin. They're in line to drink, go to the drinking fountain. And the teacher had left the door open. And Justin peeked in his head to that classroom. It wasn't his classroom. The class was going on. Peeked in his head and said, hello, everybody. And then pulled out. And I said, what? You called me out of work for that? I mean, I couldn't believe they called me. Their exact words is, we can't control him. We cannot control him. So welcome to the crowd. A child out of control. He's wild. He's all over the place. Odds are he's going to end up being a preacher. That's the kind of person that eventually becomes a preacher. The one out of control. We can't control him. The father couldn't control him. No doctor could heal him. He even took him to the disciples and said, here, help. And they couldn't do anything. There was no hope. Unbelievable belief. Unbelievable belief. Nobody can help him. So he brought him to Jesus. He said, please help me. And Jesus says to him, and straightway, he says to him, if you believe, I'll heal him. He can be healed. And the father says, and straightway the father of the child cried out. Cried out. That means he shouted. He hollered. You don't think this was not emotional for him? He feared for his child's life. He feared for his child's future. Nobody could help him. He was out of control. He feared. Jesus says, if you believe. What do you mean? Yes, I believe. I believe. Cried out and said, Lord, I believe. Help thou my unbelief. I'm afraid. I'm not sure. I believe just enough to bring him to you, but nobody can help him. He's out of control. There is no hope. I've been told many a time, there is no hope. He has no future. And Jesus healed that boy and cast the demon out. Because he believed even when it was unbelievable, not possible. Help my unbelief. Help me with my doubts. Help me with my fears. I believe enough to bring him to you. By the way, how much faith does it take? The Bible says if you have the faith of a grain of a mustard seed, which is really small, you can move a mountain. I like to use this illustration. And some like it, some don't. So you can or you don't want to. I remember the first time I was going on a cruise. And I was fine. I really was. Until we got to the ship. Then I realized it's not as big as I thought it was. And that little bitty ship is going to be out in the middle of the ocean. Now I can swim, but I can't outswim sharks. And so I got scared. I was really scared. Now, I believed that ship could make it to the Bahamas. I believed it. But if you came to me and said, here's your money back, I probably would have taken it and left. I believed it could do it. The ship didn't care how much faith I had. The captain of the ship, he didn't care how much faith I had, did he? He's done this a zillion times. He didn't care. All I needed was what? Enough faith to do what? Get on that ship. It's not quantity, it's quality. What do you have your faith in? So yes, I had unbelief, fear, doubt. Matter of fact, I went up the ramp and they said, you could go down to your room. I hung onto the rail. I did. I hate sounding like I was a big chicken. Now, after a while, I got used to it. Everything was fine. We didn't sink right away. The faith grew. Okay, my faith grew. But at first, I was scared to death. And I wasn't afraid to tell everyone. I was scared. Here's this man. I believe. God, I do believe. Help me with my fears and my doubts. My child has no future, no hope. Help me. And he brought his child to Jesus. And every believing father, if you believe in God, you put your faith and trust in God, that is your requirement. Bring your child to Jesus. Make sure they hear about salvation from day one. So it's easy for them when it's time to put their faith in God, they can. Let them know what Jesus Christ did for them on the cross. Well, that's why I bring them to church. They need to hear it from their dad. Their dad needs to tell them about God and faith in God. They need to hear from their dad where their dad gets their strength. Daddy can do anything. I remember one time having an argument with another little boy that my dad could beat up his dad. His dad was huge, but I thought my dad could do it. My dad pulls me aside and said, don't be doing that. Don't be telling him that. One time another little boy and I were arguing who made the most money. He said his dad made $100 a week. I said, Dad, I know you make more money. He said he makes $100 a week. You go tell him your dad makes $120. Okay? This is in the 70s, by the way. To us, our dads can do everything. They think and they look to us as if we're God. Teach them who the real God is. Teach them where you get your strength. They need to hear it from their dad about God and Jesus and about salvation. Don't put it off on the church. Don't put it off on the Christian school. They need to hear it from you. I always told all the parents of the Christian school, we're here to support you. We're not here to supply the spiritual needs of your home. That's your father. We're here to support your father and your mother, but we're not here to supply it. That comes from your dad. He cried out, I believe. Help me with my fear and my doubts. One last thing, again, what does this have to do with Father's Day? Just bear with me a little bit. Here's Peter and John. They're going to the temple. And here's a man, the Bible says, we read in Acts, who was paralyzed since the day he was born. All he has ever known in his life is to be carried, taken care of. He could not work. This is his life. And for a while, his life was this. He would get up in the mornings. Somebody would carry him to the temple. He would beg. At the end of the day, somebody would pick him up, take him home. Next morning, he would wake up. Somebody would carry him to the temple. He would beg for money. And then at the end of the day, somebody would pick him up and take him home. For years, that's the only life he knew. Paralyzed. Let me tell you that we have many children today. Our country's in trouble. We have many children who are paralyzed with sin, not of their own choice, but because of the choice of moms and dads. We have children who are in fear of their lives from their fathers. That should never be. We have children in fear for the mother's life because of the father. That should never be. We have children who are abused by their fathers, afraid to go to bed at night. I'm sorry, we're going to talk adult right now. And that should never be. And they're paralyzed with fear and doubt. Some children have no father in the home and have no clue what it is to be a man, and they're paralyzed in their life that way. They have no clue. They're missing something. And this man only knew this life, and some children, that's the only life they know. Fear, doubt, hurt. I don't care what anybody tells you. Even if it's a righteous divorce, even if it's called upon and it needed to be done, it always hurts the children. I don't care what psychologists tell you. It always does. And divorce in our country is rampant. It's rampant in our churches. Mothers removing fathers from the home and then bringing in a stranger. Thank God for the stepdads and stepdads that will step up and take care of children. But what they really needed was their father. Sometimes we have where mothers play games with the father and try not to let him see his children and hold back the children. Don't tell me that doesn't hurt the child. It does. And we have children today who are paralyzed, just like this man. And it's the only life they know. And Peter and John are going into the temple, and the man asks for them for money, like he always does. That's the only life he knew. And Peter looks at him and says, "Silver and gold have I none. I don't have money for you." Listen to me. Money is good. We got to have money. But your children don't need extra money. Education is good. It's not about education. A bright future is good. That's not what the man needed, and that's not what our children needed. What did the man need who was paralyzed his entire life? Had no clue about any other kind of life. What did he need? Not silver and gold, not the things of this world. What do our children need? Peter says, "In the name of Jesus, arise and walk." And in the name of Jesus, when Peter brought Jesus to him, the Bible says he leaped up. You talk about total strength. And he went with Peter and John to what? To church. To worship God. We need fathers who recognize that they need to bring Jesus to their children. You may not be very smart. You may not be very rich. You may not have anything in this life to really offer. And you might think, I've got nothing to offer a child. You have Jesus, believing father, and give it to them. Because that's what they need most in the world. And then all these things will be added unto them. You talk about a change of life that man had. Imagine how you can change the life of a child when you bring Jesus to them. They've known nothing but pain, sorrow, hurt. But you bring them Jesus. And I've seen it happen We worked in this camp, and I've seen little boys and little girls in horrible situations get saved. And it changed everything in their life. We need fathers. But not only that, believing fathers who bring their children to Jesus. And that's the challenge today. If you are a father, if you're a grandfather, if you know people that are fathers, challenge them. Are you teaching your children about Jesus? Are you bringing them to Jesus? Are you reading them stories about Jesus? Are you taking them to church so they can hear about Jesus? What are you doing for your children to bring them to Jesus? Because that is the most important thing you can do for your child. And it'll change everything. Let us pray.